Hi everybody, Jim Ostrowski back with another edition of the Liberty Moving podcast. The inimitable Liberty Moving podcast. There's nothing like it anywhere. Never was, never will be. Missed a few days, and it's kind of one of the distinctions. I don't do a regularly scheduled podcast because, frankly, others are free to do as they please, but unless I have something interesting to say, I'm not just going to do a program because I have a schedule. So that's one of the distinctions. I'm not the only one who does that, but that is one of the distinctions. Little commercial for the podcast. The podcast is going big time, by the way. I'm in the process of downloading all my videos, thank God, because some of my videos, I don't know, there's some technical problems or whatever, who knows, on Facebook. Because I went back after I predicted, I've always felt that Trump was going to win and said so, but made a pretty solid prediction early September that it's over. In fact, I started focusing in on policy for the Trump administration. And I go back to grab some of the snippets of my quotes, and it's like, this something wrong with the video. It's like, I don't know if I'm not a conspiracy person, but in any event, I'm in the process. I'm going to download all my videos. I do it live on Facebook, which I think is cool. I like the fact that Facebook has allowed me to get this thing going over this experiment in the last year and a half. It's not an experiment anymore. So the other day I counted up all the social media sites that I could think of that were, something I would post on. And I think I counted about 18 of them. So eventually I'll do the podcast live on Facebook until they ban me or whatever they do. Or keep having technical glitches with my videos. And then I'll download it on my laptop and then upload it to about 18 different sites. So hopefully, the viewership will go from 500 to 5,000 very quickly, I hope. So the other distinction, before I get into the subject is immigration and the right to bear arms. Before I get into that, another distinction, as I've said before, I'll say it again, is that most of the subjects that come up on the podcast, I've already written a book about. So I'm not just bullshitting around. I've actually done the research. I know what I'm talking about. I've cracked the code or whatever the subject is. And not only have I wrote a monograph on immigration. It's really not a book, but, we use the term book generically to cover basically anything. When I say book, I mean something I put on Amazon. So I've got 13 books up there, 8 are on paper, all of them will be on paper. I'm hoping to, by the time I, stop writing or stop living, I hope to have about 20 books covering pretty much every subject. There was a lacuna in my collection, but I actually started working on that. So for years, I ignored immigration. Is another issue I've kind of ignored. But going through the archives of 50 years, I realized why I was heavily involved in that issue, too. I'll be cloak and dagger about that one until the book comes out. So immigration, let's talk about immigration and the right to bear arms, because, they don't have anything to do with each other. What does immigration have to do with the right to bear arms? Nothing. Right to bear arms is about, you need to shoot a burglar, so I have that. No, that's not what it's about. It's about gun safety. No, that's gun control. No. The right to bear arms, as I said in Pennsylvania, is the most important political issue in the last 10,000 years. And I'm not just saying that to sell a book. I'm saying that because it's true. So not only have I written a monograph on immigration, I've written two books on the right to bear arms. So I think I really kind of know. What I'm talking about here. I never press that button. Don't trust the cars to stop. So J.D. Vance was on yesterday. He was asked about by a nurse, I guess. Our hospitals are whatever we are, Arizona. I don't know where they were. Overwhelmed with illegal immigrant women having babies. And J.D. Vance's response was, I think, left a lot to be desired. At first he talked about, we fired nurses during COVID. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, true, wrong. Yeah, I get it. But, and then he went on. So, and I'm thinking to myself, well, obviously the problem there is birthright citizenship. I'm one of the few people I'm in the process of reading the U.S. Code. And its provisions on immigration are absolutely inscrutable. The provisions are scattered. And I struggle as a lawyer to figure out what the hell any of it means. But my preliminary conclusion is, and I'm not nearly done, and I'll do a podcast on this because I think it's fascinating. What's fascinating is they put these laws on the books, and believe me, if I violated these laws, and I've already been through the passport thing. If I violated these laws, I remember coming back to the United States from Canada. Where's your passport? It's like, hey, I'm an illegal immigrant, fucker. No, I'd be in jail. So we have all these laws, these passport laws. Guess who enacted the passport laws? The Democrats. Every single one of them. I've checked. We have all these laws that restrict our liberty, and they're supposed to restrict the liberty of everybody else on the planet. In fact, I'm kind of going off on a digression, but it is the topic. They purport to restrict the liberty of the government because you know what they say? They say that unless you have a passport or some sort of permission from the government or you're a citizen, you're not supposed to be on this soil. And it's a crime, misdemeanor, I think. And it's a crime to help anybody do it. Like the government. I mean, you can only laugh. The government, particularly under Biden, but also under Obama, not so much under Trump, obviously, we're conspiring to bring in people illegally. These are all crimes. You know, that phony baloney House Republican Party. The Republican Party is such a fucking joke. And I do draw a distinction between Trump and the Republican Party because all the people that I've been criticizing, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but that's the beauty of the podcast. You never know what I'm going to say. I never know what I'm going to say. All the people I bashed for 40 years as a libertarian, bashed in the Republican Party. 90% of those people are supporting Kamala Harris. I feel so vindicated. But the Republican Party is completely useless. The Speaker of the House is completely useless. And all these attempts to impeach people. I know I talked about impeaching Mayorkas, but seriously, it's a crime to help somebody come in the country illegally. And our government's been doing it. It's not my government. I never signed on. Show me anything where I ever consented to be ruled by these creeps in Washington. So they've been, for 3.5 years, and under Obama, they've been conspiring and engaging in crimes, at least misdemeanors, and then if you get into, maybe it's wire fraud, because wire fraud, it's a stupid federal jurisdiction, but they probably committed felonies. And not to mention pissing on their oath of office. But I don't even know if I can get into the topic today. There's just so much to cover. So you look at it's just amazing that these statutes are being completely ignored. But back to Vance. So Vance said, Vance reverted to the Trumpian notion that we're going to use sort of right-wing progressivism. We're going to use the tools of the state to stop people from coming in. And in my book on immigration, I point out, well, that's not going to work. So let me get into the reasons why the wall and other things aren't going to work. They're not going to work efficiently. First of all, the birthright citizenship. So I guess my point about 5 minutes ago was, so it's illegal for the lady, from Honduras coming up through Mexico, 8.5 months pregnant, to come in the country without legal permission. But she knows, I know, you know, and everybody knows, if she comes over and has a kid, that the child is an American citizen according to the 14th Amendment, which has been completely perverted from its original meaning. But reasonable minds can differ about what the 14th Amendment means. I'm not saying, I don't even know exactly what it means. I haven't studied it. But she knows that, so she's in the process. This is how silly this whole thing is. And my point is, nobody's talking about any of this stuff except me, basically. Let's be honest. Who else is talking about any of this stuff except me? So you're committing a crime coming in the country, and the government's there, obviously giving you free medical care, because she ain't paying. The dad ain't paying, whoever the dad is. You're paying. So she's committing a crime. We're paying for her medical care, and we're rewarding her crime by making her son or daughter, does gender still exist, by the way? A citizen. And what does that mean? Well, we all know that nobody who has a kid who's a citizen is ever going to be removed. Let's go through that scenario. Oh, ma'am, we're deporting you. You can't deport me. My son is an American citizen. And hypothetically, somebody says, smart Alex says, well, that's okay. Your son can stay. But you have to leave. And then Socratic dialogue. You're separating the family. No, I'm not separating the family. The mother's separating the family. The kid's free to go with the mother. The son can stay. That will sound like Kamala there. The son can stay, but he doesn't have to stay. You see what happens when you apply? Someday I'm going to work on this How to Think book. Probably won't have time to write it. Isn't it amazing when you go through and pick apart the logic of the bullshit? You find out it's all bullshit. So kicking the mother out, and I'm just analyzing this. I'm not telling you what my opinion is. So any libertarians out there, Ostrowski is for removing people. Fuck you, bitch. I'm just analyzing it. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what the objective reality is. You kick the mother out, and the mother's going to say, you can't kick me out. You're separating the left is because you're separating my family. And then the response is, no, you're not. The mother's separating the family. The mother has to go. The kid can stay. The kid can go. If the mother chooses to, if the mother chooses to abandon the child, well, you might even want to say, well, let's get some foster parents in. Whatever. But forget the logic, because politics is determined by emotion and stupid ideologies. I'm writing a trilogy of books about there's 3 stupid ideologies that make no sense that dominate our politics: leftism, progressivism, and anarchism. I haven't written the anarchism book yet. It's outlined. The leftism book is outlined too. Somebody wants to give me a grant, I get all these, like all the other writers have, except me. I have to fund my own GD research. So we know that the mother's never going to be kicked out once the baby. So what sense does it? None of that makes any sense. And my wife reminded me that Trump, in some book he wrote about 10 years ago, mentioned birthright citizens. I haven't heard him mention it recently. So without that, so here's my point about that. I'm not just rambling here for no reason. There are reasons why immigrants come here. And this is the heart of the pot. This is what I'm going to talk about till I hit Turtle Avenue, get my coffee. at Dashes, Buy Local for Liberty. If you don't deal with the incentives, and the Trumpian people never do, you're not going to deal with the problem. And it is a problem because, well, it is a problem, let's face it. I don't have to convince this audience. Talk about that some other time. Somebody said, it's the debate. Is America an idea? And one of the funny guy on TikTok said, if it's an idea, can you guys just take the idea and apply it in your own country? America's not a fucking idea. America's a bunch of people, specific people. America is not the land, right? It's not the fucking real estate. America's the people. And you're shifting out the people, you're socially re-engineering the people. That's not going to be America anymore. I mean, whatever made Europe, everybody talks about how great Europe is in these debates about gun control, and I talk about that some other occasion. But, you get rid of the people in Europe, it's not going to be Europe anymore. It's just going to be that land and a few old castles. So, yeah, I mean, it is a problem. But unless you deal with the incentives for why people come here, you're never going to solve the problem. And again, it is a problem. So why do people come here? Okay, I think there's 4 reasons. I hope I can remember them. I do the podcast, by the way, after 2 cups of tea with matcha green powder, organic chocolate powder, 100% chocolate, no sugar, no sweeteners, and I hadn't had an artificial ingredient since the 70s. Oh, there's a deer right in front of me. So, 1, economics. Trump isn't dealing with the economics of the third world. Boom. They're going to keep coming. 2, violence in the third world. Trump's not dealing with that. Vance's not dealing with that. Ostrowski's dealing with that. I'll get to that in a second. The incentive to become a citizen, that's birthright citizenship. They've really been silent about that. So some of their advisors have probably said, oh, don't touch that. The New York Times won't like it. Look, I'm writing up a policy book for Trump from the libertarian point of view. I've already announced that. I'll talk about that. But my understanding is very few countries have birthright citizenship. It doesn't make any sense. Any policy that I fell across the border and had a kid 5 feet, and now my kid's a citizen. It's obviously I have to defend that. It's so obvious. I have to defend getting rid of that policy. No, it's obviously stupid. So you got that incentive. Trying to think if there's one. There was a 4th factor. I don't know if I can remember it, but it's in my book. I've talked about it in a prior podcast. So economics, fleeing violence. The United States is, contrary to the gun control people, the United States is a hell of a lot safer than these strict gun control countries. Isn't that amazing? Guess who pointed that out? The NRA? Fuck that. Ostrowski did. In my books. My point is, political instability, I think, is the 4th factor. So, why do people come here? Economics. Trump's not doing anything about that. Birthright citizenship. Trump's not talking about that. Violence, escaping violence. Trump's not talking about that. And political instability. Trump's not talking about that. The irony is, guess who was supposed to look into the underlying causes of immigration? Kamala Harris, the dumbest son of a bitch in American major political history. I've never seen anybody, whether I hate him or not, man, I didn't like Jimmy Carter. He was like a nuclear physicist. Guy was smart, man. He was smart. I never liked Obama. Nobody ever accused Obama of being stupid. God. But there are underlying causes. So I looked at some of the, boy, it's glad to be back, man. I love this walking podcast. I'm gonna put this on like 12 different, this particular episode. I'll download it right away. So you look at the leading source countries for immigrations: Mexico, Honduras, Guatemala, and what do you find? You find third world, poor, repressive, violent regimes where there's no economic opportunity. Well, what do all these countries have in common? There's no right to bear arms. Now, I'm not saying these people leave. I mean, they're unsophisticated people, smart enough to get the hell out of the country, smart enough to know where to go. They don't know really that the U.S. has a Second Amendment. They just know the conditions on the ground in the United States. I mean, look at me. I'm 66. I'm walking alone inside the city limits of Buffalo. I'm fine. So they're not leaving their country because, I want to get a assault rifle in Pennsylvania. But they are leaving the country because their country has the indicia of no right to bear arms: corruption, violence, instability, lack of economic liberty. A little windy here. And they know that the U.S. has the indicia of having a right to bear arms: leading economy in the world, political stability, oldest constitution, relatively peaceful, stable. There's no wars, there's no genocides, there's no civil wars going on in our soil. So those are the reasons why people are coming here, folks. And unless we start addressing these reasons, the problem is going to continue under Trump Vance, and under Vance if he succeeds Trump in 4 years. And not talking about it or pretending it's going to go away, it's getting a little windy here, is not the answer. So what is the answer, Jim? Well, again, if you read my book on a libertarian solution to immigration, I have the solutions. We need a global, and this is repeated in the new gun book exposing the two big lies of the gun control movement. So we need a global right to bear arms, a global right to bear arms. Now, what does that accomplish? The reason why in a third world kleptocracy, I hate to use Haiti, but it's a good, because it's sort of an outlier, but Haiti does sort of is an extreme example of the problem. So it's kind of a good example, and people are, roughly speaking, keep beeping. Yeah, I love it. Hey, you never know what's going to happen on the Walking Podcast. So Haiti's an example. I got some construction here, so I'm going to cross the, I don't know why my phone goes off balance. That is so annoying. I need anybody want to buy me a better selfie stick, like one that costs about $1,000? Or say something Elon Musk would carry. It costs about 10 grand. So Haiti illustrates I've only got 5 more minutes, so I'm going to it kind of gotten to the point, but we're wrapping it up. Haiti illustrates the situation on the ground in basically the whole third world. There's guns, but the people don't have any guns. The average citizen doesn't have any guns in Haiti. The government has guns, and the gangs have guns. So what happens when the government basically is the only entity in society that has any guns? Well, they do government's basically a glorified criminal organization. So they're just going to steal as much money and be repressive and shoot protesters to maintain this gig, because the gig is I'm a mediocre loser in the third world, and yet I live in a fucking palace because I run the government and I steal the money. I steal all the money. So if you had a right to bear arms in Haiti, there'd be a check on the kleptocratic tendency of the government, Haiti and all these other countries, Guatemala, Venezuela. So the point I made in the last couple of speeches, and it's in the book, there's hardly anything that restrains government growth. There's a couple things: radical libertarian ideology. We had that sort of by an accident of history. We had this accidental situation where the people who overthrew the British happen to be hardcore libertarians. It's hard to sort of recreate that. We don't have that anymore. So Libertarian ideology is not going to work because most people are statists. That's what the theme of my 3 books on the mindsets is. The constitutions don't work. That's bullshit. See my book, Progressivism, a Primer. Voting doesn't work. That's bullshit. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm just telling you, voting does not restrain the endless growth of government. The only thing that appears to restrain it, and certainly restrain the really horrible things like war, genocide, mass rape of women, which always happens during war, by the way, is the right to bear arms. So, in addition to that, other things we need to do to stop the onslaught of immigration from the third world. And by the way, the Democrats pretend to care about these people. They really don't. I do care, and that's what I'm talking about. How can we make their countries better so they don't have to come up through the Darien Gap and get raped and sell all their whatever they have in their family and get exploited along the way and just live in hovel in New Mexico. If you care about those people, you would be talking about why they're coming here. So, war on drugs is a huge factor. That's obviously has to be eliminated. That's the cause of a lot of the violence, particularly in South America. U.S. foreign wars, either the ones we start or the ones we fund. The rumor is now they're going to let in people from Lebanon. Okay, great. More disintegration of what used to be America. Because again, America's not an idea. That's fucking neocon bullshit. It's not the soil, it's not the buildings, it's the fucking people. You replace the people, and you don't have the country anymore. So we have to stop the foreign intervention. We got people from Ukraine here. I love it. Like, Trump talks about like Arnold Palmer's, private parts. Kamala killed 1 million people, 1 million men. So it's okay to kill 1 million men who presumably had private parts until they were blown up by a drone. But it's not okay to make a joke about a deceased guy. And Arnold, I didn't know Arnold, but I watched him. I'm a boomer. I certainly watched him on TV. Arnold would be the first one to laugh. Come on, give me a break. So, economic liberty, we have to make that a priority. That's why people are leaving. Who wants to leave their homeland to come to this increasingly disintegrating mess of a country? So those are the basic ideas. They're all in the book on immigration. They're all in the books on the right to bear arms. So that's your podcast. That's the content that nobody else is talking about. None of the other podcasters are, because they haven't written 3 books on the subject. So support the podcast. We're going big time. Support the books. I'm out there hustling. I was in Rochester Saturday talking about this. I was in Rod of Iron previous Saturday. I'm banging it hard. So I got to do a bunch of annoying legal work today. So at least I got my podcast in to keep my fucking sanity. Have a great day, everybody.